Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about how to select your starting weight for your Training for Overweight Individuals program. Ready for your walk? This is a question that we get a lot. I have put out a series of videos over the last several years about training overweight and or deconditioned individuals. Oftentimes in the modern world, those two things link together. In the ancient world, not so much, because being heavier and highly conditioned was something that you see a lot throughout history. In the modern world, you might have an example of that as being very heavy people who are very highly conditioned, being NFL center lineman football players. We're talking about people who are deconditioned, and people end up deconditioned for a couple of reasons. The one that I tend to talk about is injury and or work. People in the modern world get out of high school, and they may have been very conditioned in high school or never conditioned at all. And then they get a job in the real world and they work 12 hours a day and they stop moving very much and they eat less good food because that's what's available in the modern world. And they get deconditioned. And once they get deconditioned, somewhere along the line, they get hurt for whatever reason. Oftentimes, in my experience, the people I've dealt with, it's with work. People get hurt at work. The problem is they don't stop going to work and learn how to rehab, because the rehab available to most people is usually not the best. When people get hurt, they continue to go to work, but by being hurt, their body alters how they move in order to survive going to work. Their brain moves around the injured spot. You see this a lot with back injuries. When people get a back injury, they don't stop going to work. They alter how they move at work. When they alter how they move, they try to take the load from the spot that's injured, and then they try to take up that amount of work with some other part of their body. And then they end up with an overuse injury wherever they shoved the work, and then they shove the work someplace else, and then they shove the work someplace else. People call this aging. It's not really aging. Aging is really telomere shortening inside of your cells, or you can certainly think of it that way. Aging, for the most part, is a stack up of injuries, deconditioning, and degradation of movement. Very important, a degradation of movement. When humans are young, they move very well. They learn a bunch of things in a specific order on how to stand up and walk. You know, they crawl, they orient their body upright, they figure out how to get onto their feet, they fall over, they learn to get up, they learn to step. We need to redo that process in training the same way they do when they were young. Being old is a loss of movement pattern. That is the simplest way to think of it. A loss of movement pattern. You no longer walk well, you no longer rotate a certain way, your shoulder doesn't move right. All of that is aging, is thrown into the category of aging. You can fight the process of aging by reconditioning yourself and by making sure that all of your movement patterns come back equally well on both sides of your body. No strong side is pretty key in this equation. In our Training for Overweight and Deconditioned Individuals program, we made a program and it's follow along workouts. It's based on really basic things that you will do as a super advanced athlete in some way and as a deconditioned athlete. Advanced athletes and deconditioned people need to focus on the same things. The basis of all of it is standing up really well and standing up a little bit better over time. In training, this tends to look like most training programs, looks like a deadlift, a squat, and an overhead press. If you're an Olympic lifter, you do those things in some way. If you are deconditioned, you should focus on those things in some way. The difference between highly conditioned and deconditioned on this program is highly conditioned tends to use extraordinarily heavy weights so that they can get more contraction response so that they can learn to keep themselves stronger, longer, tighter core, basic idea. Deconditioned people start with a lighter weight, but the goal is exactly the same. We tend to move the weight to one side of our body instead of using something like a barbell, which is symmetrical and can go up in weight. We tend to use a weight in one hand because most people who are deconditioned have a bad side, like a really bad side. So we move either a dumbbell or a kettlebell to one side of our body and we do a deadlift. We put a weight in front of our body, we work on our squat, and we work on getting it lower and lower and lower so that we get more core response, and we do an overhead press with a weight on one side of our body. Here's the point of this whole video. We tend to start athletes with the weight that they can press 5 times comfortably. 5 times comfortably is the key word in this sentence. We use the weight that you can press because we want the body to develop equally. This is something that we do for a long time in kettlebell training. We learn to use one weight and we learn to do all the most important movements with it so that our body becomes equally strong everywhere. If you are an advanced athlete, like super advanced, like professional level, you can throw that idea out. If you are a normal person, let's say out of 330 million people in North America, in America itself, let's say that this idea that I'm talking about applies to 329 million of them. There's maybe 1 million people who can throw this idea out. Being equally strong at all of your base movements is an excellent way to not be in pain and to get the most training in the least amount of time for the least amount of money. Side effect is you will end up in better shape than most people who are semi-professional athletes. We start our program with our deadlift, our squat, and our press with the weight you can overhead press 5 times with your bad hand comfortably. That means you could probably do 7, but you do 5. How do you determine that? For the most part, that's extremely hard because you cannot do a strength test if you are deconditioned. It's a great way to get extraordinarily hurt. So what we tell people is start way lighter than you think. I talk about a gallon of milk, about 8 pounds. But I know several people who were high-level athletes who've had bad spinal injuries who've had to start with 5 pounds. Start it somewhere in the 5, 7.5, 10-pound range, if that's what you have in pounds. In kilograms, think 4 kilograms, 5 kilograms, 6 kilograms. The goal of reconditioning people of the Training for Overweight and Deconditioned program is to get people to run it several times. You do it a 4-week cycle with a light weight. You learn the movements. You learn to not get hurt. If you use a weight that's so heavy that you get hurt, you set yourself back. It's more important to comply with the program and to learn to succeed than it is to lose a bunch of weight in the beginning. Here's how it really goes. Don't get hurt. Start with weights so light that you don't get hurt and you can complete the program. That's subjective. Err on the side of going lighter than you think. 5 pounds, 7 pounds, 10 pounds. Then repeat the program with a heavier weight in the smallest unit up you can get. For many people, that will be 2.5 pound dumbbell. So if you start with a 5, you might go to a 7.5. If you can't get it, you might go to a 10. And then a 12.5, a 15, a 17.5, a 20. If you get up to the point where you're doing the program with 25 pounds or 12K kettlebell, then you are well on your way to being extremely reconditioned. The goal of training for overweight and deconditioned individuals is to not get hurt. It's to build confidence. It's to learn to succeed. In order to do that, a light dumbbell or a light kettlebell, so light you can press it 5 times. If you want to go to the store, go to Walmart, grab a dumbbell, press it overhead 5 times, try it out, put it down, grab another one, try it again, do that. If you get hurt, you go back, you start over. Your body gets afraid again, the injury cycle perpetuates. If you succeed for a whole cycle, go up in weight and do it again. The starting weight for the club portion is a baseball bat. A baseball bat is 1 to 2 pounds, and you're really learning to move your shoulders and stand all the way up. We have a ton of information on that. The goal of the program is to get people to learn to stand up well. Whether you are an advanced athlete or a deconditioned individual, that part never changes. The better you stand up, the better you can get. The more weight you can lose, the more everything happens. This is all laid out in a big training cycle, training for deconditioned individuals, People will run it for 4 months to 10 months until they feel that they have gotten the movements down. It is mathematically based to get you 10,000 reps if you do 4 cycles, so that you know what you're doing. Then you move to intro to kettlebell, where you learn to get the weight up to shoulder height and pass it from hand to hand, and your shoulder mobility gets more expanded. Then it goes to swings. Swings are the deadlift analog. They are endurance hip snap. That is where people start to lose a lot of weight. If you cannot stand up well and be equally strong on either side of your spine, you're going to have a hard time doing the swing program. The swing program leads to the clean and press program. The clean and press program goes to the get-up program. You will notice these programs is a multi-year strategy to take people from so hurt they cannot stand to full-blown world-class athlete climbing a mountain. Start lighter than you need to, 5, 7.5, 10 pounds. If that's too light, then get a heavier weight. This is subjective. If you hurt yourself, you did it wrong. If you succeeded in the training, then you did it right. Without somebody there to watch you do everything, it is subjective. You are learning how to coach yourself in these programs. That is key to lifelong success.